Hello out there, everyone. Today we're going to take a quick look at this Severin Blu-ray release of Stone, a 1974 Aussie exploitation biker film that really, as the tagline up above indicates, before Mad Max and the Road Warrior there was Stone. It really is a movie that plays like a prologue to that franchise, and it even features several actors from the Mad Max series that it's just, you can't help but think that this was sort of like where they were before the apocalypse hit, and how, you know, you could see if they were already in those circles of people, how they could easily sort of snap and become just complete violent outlaws. In this film, they are outlaw bikers, but there is I think a respectable code that they follow, and I don't think that they are nearly as violent as they were in the Mad Max series. But in any case, it's just fascinating because, of course, Hugh Keys Burn, who went on to play the Toe Cutter and in Mad Max, and then of course played Immortan Joe, I believe, in Fury Road. He's in this, and he's one of the sort of deputies of the group, and is just he leaves such an impression. He's such a character, and I believe that there are other actors there. Who was it? Roger Ward, who played Fifi in Mad Max. Vincent Gill and Reg Evans were also in Mad Max. There's even a funny allusion to Mad Max, or at least presaging the title that George Miller opted for in his first film about Max, called, you know, Mad Max. But in this film, there's a character in the movie called Bad Max. So it's just really interesting to watch it, knowing that this would become the sort of progenitor to that whole franchise. And of course, they all drive Kawasaki Z900 inline fours from, you know, the early 70s. And so it's a cool time capsule, if you're into motorcycles, to see all of those Z900s running around the Australian roads. And you know, the movie itself, it's not great, but it's a fascinating piece of sort of Australian cinema history. And I think it is a pretty accurate depiction of that biker culture. And so if you're a fan of Sons of Anarchy, for example, or, you know, of course, the Mad Max series, I think you're still going to enjoy it, despite the fact that the actors perhaps aren't all great in it. Although I would argue that Hugh Keys Burn is pretty convincing, shall we say, as he's been in other movies that he's been in. And it's really quite fascinating, having read some of the backstory of Mad Max. It really brings that story into much more focus, I suppose, because if you think about it, several of these characters in this film went on to again play bikers in Mad Max. And so there was already a sense of camaraderie and fellowship, and just, you know, I suppose, you know, disdain for the law. And some of the lines that were uttered in Mad Max about the bronze, you could see how they sort of reflected evolved thinking on the perspective rather of these bikers, and what they felt about law officers. So again, I think that this film is absolutely worth a watch. I believe Quentin Tarantino, of all people, is a big fan of this film, and I'm happy to report that the transfer looks very good. I believe it was based on a 4K transfer from original vault elements, as it's noted here, supervised by the director himself shortly before his death. And there are some fascinating supplemental features, including a really interesting documentary on the making of, as well as a sort of 1998 celebration of the 25th anniversary of the film, which focuses on basically, I guess, over 30,000 bikers recreating a run in the film. And it showcases just how popular this film is amongst the biker set in Australia. And it's often regarded as sort of Australia's version of Easy Rider. There's also some extended interviews out of the really interesting documentary, like Not Quite Hollywood, which came out, I believe, in 2008. There's some makeup tests, trailer, and there's even a bonus disc where the soundtrack is on compact disc. So I think overall this is a fantastic release and a very interesting piece of Australian cinema history that, like I said, I think provides some real context to the Mad Max series. I highly recommend it if you're a fan of the Mad Max franchise. And you can see there the craftsmanship they put on the discs and disc art. This, of course, is the titular character. He plays a police officer who works his way into the gang in order to solve a crime which is being committed. There's apparently a sniper or an assassin picking off these bikers, and this cop convinces the biker gang to let him in and become one of them so that he can then hopefully catch whoever is doing this to their group. But on that note, I'll just leave it at there. Again, don't expect high art, but it's definitely an interesting watch, and one that I think should be duly respected as the film that sort of, I would say, pollinated George Miller's idea for Mad Max. So on that note, take care out there, everyone. Stay safe, be kind, and by all means, keep watching good cinema.